So welcome, mindful folk, and welcome to the series around change. So we're moving forward and we're moving through the next stages, and we're looking at change, we're looking at transitions. And when I say the word change or transitions, you may have a response to that. Change or transition might be different for you if you use different words, and they may conjure up a connection to feeling good about, feeling bad about, examples of change, examples of transition. And we can get stuck in our previous experiences about how we feel about going through periods of change. And of course, we can all give really positive examples, and we can all probably give really difficult examples, but we are where we are. We've got through change, positive, negative and neutral. We transitioned through life, again, positive, neutral and maybe a little bit more negative. So today we're going to just explore a little bit of that around that. We're going to explore transitions in the body and in the breath. And then we're going to do a little bit of a curious questioning to support us with change, some questions that might help us move on, move forward and move through. So, finding your happy place. So sitting or lying, or find the position that you now feel like is your meditation or mindfulness place, and within that, how you sit to find sufficient comfort and sufficient alertness. So if you need to do any movements that help you kind of settle, then you can find your own this week. So we'll come back to some movements in a further sessions that we do in this series. But this week I'm just asking you to arrive in the way you feel happy to arrive, and that might be both about how you sit, where you sit, what you have around you, and also it may be around what you do with your body, where you hold your hands, where you put your feet, where you settle your bottom, and whether you close your eyes or not. Whether that helps you focus or whether that gives you a little bit too much closeness to sleepiness, so you might need to just lower your gaze if that's the case. If you're doing this earlier in the day, usually we're more awake, and that's why it's very common that people do have a mindful spot early in the day, when they're more likely to be less hassled to some extent, hopefully, and also awake, hopefully after a night's sleep, a good night's sleep, hopefully. So this settling in period is really, really important. So finding your feet or whatever's on the ground, might be soles of the feet, sides of the feet, it might be your bottom that's on the floor, it might be your bottom is actually feeling the weight, or is weighted into the chair, into the support. You might have something supporting your back, or you might be sitting without supporting your back, again, either to keep you awake or because you can manage to feel comfortable in a stance where you have freedom and a sense of lift and length through the spine. If you're lying down, then you just might feel the weight of the whole back of the body. So settling in, sometimes we say checking in. Settling in is sort of almost before we check in. It's kind of arriving and finding a place that we can start to explore things in a different way maybe than we would in just our everyday life. And we'll have thoughts, we'll have feelings, we'll have responses to our environment. And we pay them some attention, but try not to let them take a full hold and take us travelling down on a journey that we're not seeking to do. Yeah, so there will be some journeys with questions through the practice. If you find your mind just wandering or getting attached to something or pushing away from something, then just for a second noticing that, because that is really important information, and then coming back to the focus of the practice. So feel any warmth in the body, any sense of comfort in the body, any sense of ease in the body. And we're going to explore the body in various ways to find a softness, a lightness in the body, sense of release, sense of relaxation if we can. So follow me if you wish to. So the focus is to start with noticing the breath in the nostrils. And if you feel it will be helpful to do a slightly deeper breath, then do that. If you don't need to, don't want to, don't find that helpful, then just notice the breath as it is. And seeing if you can just get a little bit more aware of literally the sense of the breath coming in through the nostrils. Sense of air entering the body. So with that, there's a little bit of a aliveness. There's also a subtlety to sense the breath in the nostrils. Might be a sense of cool air on the skin just below the nostrils, around the nostrils. You might be able to really pinpoint where the breath comes in. So focus is more about bringing in at the moment. So it's fine if you're noticing both parts of the breath, the in-breath and the out-breath, but the main focus for us at the moment is the breath in. Filling our nostrils, filling our nasal cavity, which is quite a big space in the head. So maybe imagining the breath now in that kind of nasal cavity space it can find, the lightness of the breath. And then following the breath as it transitions through into somewhere around the throat. So again, you might feel that, you might just need to imagine that. It might be comforting, it might not be comfortable for everybody. So just following the breath through into around the throat. So keeping that sense quite high in the throat, so we're more really focused around the mouth. And then taking attention to the mouth, so that will be warm, probably feeling damp, feeling moist. And just noticing the space there. Softening around the lips and the jaw, cheeks, the tongue, tip of the tongue and the back of the tongue. So just being aware of that space. So we kind of notice the space in the nasal cavity, higher up in the head. We notice the space in the mouth. That's more obvious for us or immediate. And we're transitioning and we're noticing what's changing in our body. Breath coming in through the nostrils, space in the head that can create if we focus in that area. The movement of air towards the throat, moist feeling in the mouth. So all different sensations. All different spaces, all different qualities. Somewhere we notice movement, somewhere we just notice particular aspects, like the tongue, maybe the teeth, the inside of the lips. And just softening where we need to soften in that area. So we're now going to move inside the body a little bit lower, so get a sense of the breath in the upper chest. How does it feel there? Can you feel a little bit of movement around the collarbones, around the front of the rib cage? Maybe you can feel the shoulders moving, or just have a sense of the shoulders in that kind of area. Upper torso. Maybe you can feel the area around the armpits, around the back of the shoulder blades. And then maybe you can feel the whole space around the rib cage all the way down to the diaphragm. Front, back and sides, space where the lungs are, the back of the body. Feel quite a bit of space, so we feel the back of the body as well as the front of the body, as well as the sides of the body, as well as the breath inside, as well as the movement, the organs. We're kind of getting a sense of or imagining the breathing apparatus. And then you might imagine the movement of the diaphragm as it rises and falls. As it falls, the belly will extend out a little bit. As it returns up, then there's a little bit of change on the upper body. Following the diaphragm, get a sense of the diaphragm in the center of the body. It's a very strong, important muscle. So again, we're moving from organs to muscles, from the bones of the rib cage, exploring different parts of ourselves, different aspects of ourselves, different ways we are. And we're transitioning through the body. We're looking for change, we're looking for different experiences as we explore. So noticing the belly breath, if you like, so the movement of the belly through the movement of the diaphragm, the expansion on the in-breath, and the softening of the belly on the out-breath. And fine-tuning the spot now just below the belly button, just below the navel, halfway between the belly and the lower back, so inside that point. It's an energy point for lots of energy medicine style approaches, so yoga, tai chi, qigong, Chinese medicine. And that might not make any sense, but just noticing a point in the center of the body. So we're just kind of going deeper in, we're being more specific rather than just focusing on the whole of the belly. But if you're more comfortable keeping the belly breath in focus, then please go back. If not, you can really pinpoint somewhere between the navel and the lower back. And now widening the focus to the lower part of the torso. So we're actually now in the pelvic area, the pelvic bowl. So you can imagine the whole space in the pelvic bowl, front, the back, right down to the pubis. You might feel movement there. You might just have to imagine that space. You might feel the breath in that space. And the support that maybe that gives you. It makes more of a connection between the bottom and the chair if you're sitting on the chair. And I'm just going to ask a question whether you feel kind of sense of energy there, what the energy sense is in that lower area of the body, lower area of the torso. So we can look at the body in different ways, its structure, its space, its energy. Focus deep down, focus in a wider area. All these possibilities, all these ways of looking, experiencing, noticing, change. So now going down our legs and to our feet. And onto our toes, tips of our toes. Can you feel the tips of your toes, tops of your toes? Can you relax your toes now, feeling spacious in the joints of the toes? And noticing your ankles and that whole space around the ankle. You might really feel the bone, quite prominent bones, some parts of the ankle. You might feel the bone area and the skin area around the socks or around the clothing, or blankets or whatever's around the feet. You really get a sense of the space in the ankles now. And the space in the knees, so just space behind the knees, side of the knees, behind the kneecap. Space around the hips, the hip flexor area. Legs joining to pelvis, that kind of region. Just imagine space and softness and see how you can connect there. And then feeling fingers, tips of the fingers and thumbs. Feeling the joints of the fingers and the spaces between the joints. Following that through to the wrists. Again, quite noticeable areas that really quite bony, and we might notice that, might feel those areas prominent. Might feel it on the clothes if we've got clothes or blankets around the wrists, finding the space, and elbows and shoulders. And now imagine the shoulders, the arm, upper arm joint into the shoulder area, and just imagine the fluidity there. So there's no real fluid in our joints, so just keep that moist. So just imagine that whole area feeling moist and at ease, hydrated. Same with the elbows, with the wrists, the joints of the fingers, hips, knees, ankles, joints of the toes. Feeling softness under the feet, palms of the hands soft. And just having a sense of the relaxed body in state of ease, just breathing softly. Some areas feeling weighted to the ground and connected to the ground. Other areas feeling a bit lighter through the breath, creating wakefulness in the body. So as we go through the body, or we travel through the body, that's a whole journey of transitioning. We transitioned from different aspects of our body, how it functions, how it's built, how we connect to it, where it's hard, where it's soft, where it's warm. Organs, muscles, space, energy. And when we ask who we are, and we've done that traveling, it all becomes a little bit, yeah, lots of things. And breath and body and space and warmth and flow and energy. Everything in movement, everything in transition, everything connected, everything changing from moment to moment. Breath never quite the same. The body feeling not quite the same. When we notice it. So one of the questions I'm just going to pose to you now. As we've done this journey, we've gone through a practice, awareness, presence. So we've noticed change, differences, connections. So we've relaxed and settled. just dropping into maybe a heart space, or if that helps, just so we take it slightly away from the mind. And the question is, what's important to me now? And there might be a flow of things coming in. There might be one thing that stands out. Might be confusion, or questions under the question. You may not want to answer the question. You may be drawn to the question. So it's an important question at any point. But if we're transitioning through, traveling through a period of change, then keeping our eye, our heart open to what's important might be helpful. You might have a different question, but for now, just see how this sits. So we've been through a period of change. We've been through the winter. And some of that is hanging in there. Through the cold days, cold winds, snow and the hail. Trees that haven't stirred, brownness. Been through a period of what we call cold restrictions. For some people that might feel very strong and felt restricted for a long time. For others it might be a mixture, some restrictions, some freedoms, some things that not really registered. So as we ask what's important to me, now there's also a brief reference point to what came before. What came before this moment? What came in the last period, however we define it in our life? What do we want to carry forward that's important? What do we need support with that's important? What do we need to let go of? So without getting too lost in memories, lots of memories, or a big review of the winter or the last year, or just allowing them to come to go. Maybe just naming a few things that seem helpful to what you need to bring with you that you know is important. And that might be a constant thing. It doesn't matter, not matter whatever change there is, what's important to you is exactly the same. There may be some things that change, but some things that need more support to stay important, and some things that need to be put aside. Some things that need to be opened up. Some things that need to be closed down. Some things we need to embrace. Some things we just need to give a little bit more time. So I'm just going to drop that question back in and just see as you rest with that. Maybe if it's comfortable, taking one or two hands to the chest, to the heart center, if that helps, and just dropping in the question, what's important? Doesn't matter if there isn't an answer. It's not important. It's a question for now that's important. Sounds. So taking in the sounds. Maybe moving the feet, toes, fingers. Maybe opening the eyes are closed. Maybe just moving from side to side or having a wriggle. Maybe a breath out. And awakening. Awakening to your surroundings. And we will finish the practice for today, for week 1. So if things came to you that you want to just take note of, you could literally at some point in a moment or two just write some things down. That's helpful. And just maybe one or two things, if they feel important in that question, what's important to you. So we can use what's important to us to take us through transitions. And within that, look at what we need to carry, what support we need, and what we could let go of as we go through transitions, because most transitions are complex. Yes, part of it's joyful, part of it's confusing, part of it's a bit difficult, and the relationship between those may change. Anyway, I look forward to sharing some time with you again next week for week 2. So have a good week, whatever the weather, and I'll see you all soon. Thanks for joining.